Hey. Hi. How's it going? How's your hair? My hair is getting so long. Much to my husband's delight. I used to have my hair really long. For the first 14 years of our marriage, it was long. That's all he ever knew. He never saw me with short hair. And I don't know, back in 2012 or so, I decided to try something different. I found I really liked shorter hair. And I've been thinking about growing it out, and it was doing well back in January. And so instead of getting my hair trimmed at my appointment, I had some color added. I don't know, it's still there. There's blue underneath. And that was fun. But then I had scheduled trim for the end of March, and of course we all know that didn't happen. And now it's just getting long, and everybody keeps telling me, your hair is so long, it's so pretty. And okay, I like my hair. The curls don't bother me anymore. I fought them for years and years and years and years, and I finally decided to embrace the curls, and I like them. I'm happy with them. That's what happens when you're in your 40s. I'm 45 now, and I've learned to embrace what I have been given. But it gets in the way. I remember why I liked having short hair now. It blows in my face when I have the windows down in the car. When I wear a hoodie, it like feels weird around my neck. It's just, I don't know. It's long. It is what it is. At least I have the ability to keep my own bangs trimmed. That's something that I've always done. It's nothing new to me. So I actually have the ability to cut my entire head of hair. I'm just choosing not to because I found an amazing hairstylist, and she owns her own salon and is I'm saving my money so that when she reopens, I can go support her business. Anyway, I have so much to talk about today. My name is Beth Twist. I am a cross-stitch designer. My brand name is Heartstring Samplery, and I love what I do. And I am so blessed that I already worked from home, and my business model looks a little bit different during this time, but ultimately I still get to do what I love, and life hasn't changed much. I just get to be more of an introvert, which is fine with me. I live in a beautiful place. I am not stuck in a neighborhood. Stuck is maybe the wrong word. For me, it would feel like being stuck because I like the country life. And I have lots of beauty to look out on and birds flying by right now. And I had set up this video under the grape arbor in the front yard, and it was really beautiful. And then the neighbor on that side started his weed eater. So now I'm on the back deck. It's all good. At least I'm not in the house right now. So anyway, I haven't filmed for so long. I have got a huge pile of things to show you. I have some new releases, which many of you have already seen as they've been out for a couple weeks now. I just haven't put them on FlossTube yet. I have some FFOs that are not my designs. I have quite a large stack of haul that I acquired during the month of April when I was encouraging people to consider a different shop every day in the month of April. And all of the shops that I was asking them to consider are shops that are regularly buying patterns directly from me. I know there are a lot of shops out there that order from the distributors, and that's fine, but I'm not aware of them because they don't interact directly with me. So these were the shops that come straight to me for pattern purchases. And so I was encouraging people to go shop from them. And so what did I do? The month of April, I bought something from a different shop nearly every day. There were a couple of shops that didn't respond to my inquiries. And I'm not going to call anybody out on this video. I know that a lot of shops are overwhelmed because they've had to transition from being walk-in customers only to suddenly, if we're going to stay open, we have to do mail order, and figuring that out. It's okay. My feelings weren't hurt. But there were a couple of shops that, yeah, there's a little hoverfly right next to me checking me out. I never heard back from. So I didn't end up making a purchase every single day, but pretty darn close. Not only that, but I had more shops than for the entire month of April, and so it kind of filtered over into whatever the next month was, May. I know I'm not the only one that's losing track of time. When this all started, so Oregon went into stay-at-home orders, I want to say it was March 23rd. It's a little hard for me to keep track of because as soon as I got home from market, I pretty much quarantined myself for 2 weeks because I knew I had been in quite a few airports and interacted with people from literally all over the world, and I just wanted to be mindful of anybody I would interact with in public. By the time my 2 weeks was up, Oregon had ordered stay at home. So my stay at home orders basically started when I got home from market. I'm not sure where I was going with that. Oh, losing track of time maybe? And I'm distracted right now because the wind picked up, and I know that my camera sometimes picks up that sound and makes it really loud on your end. So I'm going to pause for a minute and check the mic volume. So I just fashioned a little windshield out of Post-it notes and a rubber band. Make do and mend. Anyway, what am I going to show you first? I'll show you my new releases first. That way if you want to move on to the next video, you can. After the new releases, I will show you projects that I've finished. There's just a couple of them. I've had a stack of to be FFO'd items that I didn't have any real motivation to just get them done because they were things that I stitched in the car while my kids were in piano lessons or while I was on vacation, and they weren't models, and so they've just been in a pile. There was a free chart in that pile, one of my free charts from 2012, and I stitched it in 2014, 2 years later, and now in 2020 it is 3/4 of the way towards being fully finished, hopefully by the next video. I'm trying to wrap up some of those things that have been lingering with the time that I saved by not leaving the house more than for the essentials. Anyway, this is my Leavenworth mug. My grandfather was born to Norwegian immigrants who settled in Leavenworth, and my granddad built a house that still stands there. So I've only visited Leavenworth once, but it was with my grandfather while he was still living, and he gave me his tour and his perspective on Leavenworth being converted to a Bavarian village. He did not approve at all. He spent the whole time showing us, pointing us things that were there in the old days and poo-pooing the Bavarian style village, which everybody goes there to see now. Anyway, we're on to water because I've already had 3 cups of coffee today. Okay, so new releases. I just came out with 3 releases, and the first is the Mary Pearson sampler. Now, I do not have the antique, nor do I have the model. This is a sampler owned by my local historical society. And when they received it as a donation, it was badly damaged, and still is. Somebody at some point had decided to wash it, and it has a big tear right here all of the dark greens bled out, so there's blue ghosting all through it. And so they wanted a reproduction of it. And when one of their people was doing some searching and found my Etsy shop, because I have other antique sampler reproductions, and when she realized I was in the same town, she was thrilled. So it was a long project. I think that I had their antique in my possession for 5 years. There's a lot of intense over one stitching down in this section. Definitely worth it. I'm so proud of this project. But the border and the top section, other than these little words Adam and Eve right here, is all standard cross stitch. That part flies by. It was all of the green grass, and there's actually a little pond down there. Here's a picture of the model where it shows some of the details that you don't really see unless you study the antique. So there's a little pond and some sheep. Quite a lot of over one stitching down there. But like I said, worth it. Look at that pink house. How can you not love that pink house? Anyway, Mary Pearson, I originally released it to the Tudor Rose Sampler Guild. I'm sorry, yes, in, yeah, Tudor, sorry. I am working right now on 4 different projects for different retreats and groups. And so I'm having a little bit of a hard time keeping them all straight right now. So last May, a year ago, I took this to Dallas with me, and it was one of the projects that I presented to their group. And as a result of that, I reformatted it because the format they received was basically just a folder, a printed folder that looked just like this, but the pages were loose on the inside. And after figuring out how to have books done with Consider the Lilies in March for market, I decided to have Mary Pearson printed as a book. So she's a book, and there's a lot of information in here. We don't know much about Mary personally, but I have written everything that I know, things that I learned and discovered while printing. I did some close-up pictures of the model. You can see the shepherdess's dress has this fantastic window pane effect on it, and I had to basically figure out how to do that, because even under a really strong magnifying glass, it was really hard to tell how Mary had accomplished that effect. So anyway, Mary Pearson is now available. She has been sent out to all of the shops that order from me and is on the way to the distributor. So if your shop orders from the distributor, they probably don't have it quite yet. I don't know if I have anything else to say. Stitch count 262 by 427, so she's not a small one. I stitched her on a Zweigart 40 count cream linen because I wanted something that resembled the antique as close as possible. Were I stitching it for myself, I wouldn't have chosen something so bright because I prefer darker, more natural looking linens. So please, if you're not a fan of white, but you want to stitch Mary's sampler, just because my reproduction needed to look as close to the original as possible for the museum's purposes doesn't mean you have to do it that way. It's done all in DMCs, which is good because there's quite a lot. The 935 alone, you need 3 skeins because of all of the green grass. Anyway, Mary Pearson, now available. The next one I released was the Honeybee Pin Drum. Now this was originally released as a club piece for a shop in the Netherlands, and so when I designed it, I didn't use English on it, and I actually really like it. It says "Save the Bees," in Dutch. I'm not going to try to pronounce it because I know I'm not going to pronounce it right. So it's just a queen bee surrounded by a wreath of forget-me-nots and a little honeycomb design that goes around it. And if you'll see this on the back, I made it so that it just meets up exactly right on the seam. And then I also designed a little thing that you can put your initial in for the bottom or the top, and then another little grouping of motifs that you could put on the bottom or the top if you want. Honeybee pin drum, now available at any shop that carries my designs, or soon will be. And the final design is Flanders Fields Biscornu. I came out with a Biscornu last year, and it was my first ever, and it was so fun to design, so fun to make, and you all liked it so much, I decided I'm going to do more. So this, here's the model. It's not a small Biscornu. You can see that. This is stitched on 36 count, and it's still a nice, chunky, it's a good size Biscornu. It's not going to get lost in your collection, that's for sure. With poppies on front and back. And if you don't know about Flanders Fields, I will read you a little bit from my write-up in the pattern. The damage done to the landscape in Flanders during the First World War greatly increased the lime content in the surface soil, leaving the poppy as one of the few plants able to grow in the region. Flanders is in France. Canadian Lieutenant Colonel John McCrae wrote a poem in May of 1915 called In Flanders Fields, which reads, "In Flanders Fields the poppies blow between the crosses, row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly, scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders Fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch, be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders Fields." As a result of its immediate popularity, parts of the poem were used in efforts to raise money selling war bonds. Its references to the red poppies that grow over the graves of fallen soldiers resulted in the remembrance poppy becoming one of the world's most recognized memorial symbols for soldiers who have died in conflict. Each May, as the poppies bloom in my flower beds, I can't help but think of the many lives lost to the nations of the world in global and national conflicts. I always buy a few buddy poppies in the weeks leading up to Memorial Day when I cross paths with representatives from the VFW in the lobby of my local grocery market. I wear them with pride, tucked into collar or hat, whispering my small thank you to the veterans who still live. I hope that you stitch this Biscornu with remembrance in your heart and add your prayer to mine for those that are left behind when a soldier's life is lost. It's a little bit sad. This year I have not seen representatives of the VFW in my grocery store. I'm assuming it's because they're trying to keep their people safe from potential contamination. Anyway, those are my new releases for the month of May. Sorry it took me a while to get a video recorded to tell you about them. Now I will show you a few things that I've finished. The first being, I have glass on this. I hope you're going to be able to see it. And it's a dark linen. This is a Scarlet House chart called, I'm putting the title below, I think Arabella's Bouquet. Why didn't I bring the paper out with me? So I don't have an actual chart to show you, but I've been told that this is available for purchase. When I received it, it was a gift at a retreat that I taught with Tanya at Tomorrow's Heirlooms a couple summers ago. And I bought the piece of linen that they provided and used flosses from my collection. And this is the second of my Mother's Day bouquets stitched for myself. It's a tradition I started last year. And last year I stitched this one, which is a Lucy Beam design. And again, I'll put the title of the pattern right here because I can't remember it. So I don't know why I decided I needed to start doing this, but taking Mother's Day and splurging, it feels like a splurge, an indulgence to stitch on something that's not one of my models. And I thought, I love flower bouquets, and if I just started choosing small designs stitched by my, or designed by my friends and stitching them, I could have a collection of Mother's Day bouquets. So there's 2019 and 2020 right there. Frames found from my own collection of frames from thrift stores and antique shops. Here, I just finished this morning, a little roll up. I like to put a button and a ribbon on and just roll it up because my walls are full of framed goods. And this is, I don't know if you've seen this one, In All Things Be Exceedingly Grateful. I think I called it Exceedingly Grateful. This was my free chart I offered at Market to shops that came and bought from me there. I sent it to them as a PDF if they signed up on a sign-up sheet. It's possible that they still have it available. So if you'd like to get your hands on this, all you need to do is contact a shop who visited me at Market to see if they have it. And if they don't, maybe send me a note and I will direct you to some shops that may have it. Because that's the only way you can get it, is through someone who visited me at Market. And all I did was I backed it with fabric. There's no lining, there's no pockets or anything on the inside. Just backed it with fabric and stitched on a button and a ribbon. And then I can just go like this, wrap the ribbon around. It's not behaving right now. Like that, and put it in a basket or a bowl. Another one that I finished is a design by a good friend of mine, Stephanie Webb. Lindy Stitches. Don't look closely at this. This was my Lent project. The entire Lent period was spent attending services through our online church attendance. We hook up my laptop to the television and the four of us in my family sit in the living room and watch service on TV. That's how most of us who attend services of any kind have been attending during this quarantine period. Anyway, this, because I was watching it during church, or stitching it during church, mistakes were made and I did not go back and fix them. So over here, Beth Twist, Bought with Blood, stitched during Lent 2020. And I finished it just like I did the last one, backed it with some fabric, which I thought was fitting, and put a button on it that came from my great aunt Katie's sewing basket, a piece of seam binding ribbon. And it's, because I have so many, I only stitched on it during online services during this period of time. I think that every time I pick this up for the rest of my life, it's going to bring back memories not only of Lent, but of stay-at-home orders and being separated from my church family during this time. It's been a very unique experience for all of us, hasn't it? FFOs that are not models. How exciting is that? Well, I suppose this one's a model. All right. That leaves a big stack of haul to show you. But before I do that, I am going to show you a gift that I received from a dear friend. This is a friend I've had for years and years and years. I knew her before I knew my farm boy. She is, I think, about 12, 15 years older than me, so she was somebody that I looked up to. I met her in my church. Her creativity, she's somebody who can do anything, literally anything. She could build a house, she can make a quilt, and she can paint. Back towards the beginning of stay-at-home orders, her son, who lives in the Portland area, had driven over the mountains to visit her. She lives in Eastern Oregon, Central Oregon, and he was stopping by on his way through. We exchanged bottles of whiskey. Oh yes, we did. And he unexpectedly brought this to me. And if you follow me on Instagram, you know this is my beloved barn. This barn was built many decades before we bought the property, and it is just, it sits off to the side of my house, and I love it dearly, and it unfortunately is not very structurally sound, and so having it preserved in this painting by my dear friend Connie is a treasure I will cherish for the rest of my life. And I wanted to show it to you. She's recently started painting again. She hasn't painted for many years, and I think she should keep at it, don't you? So that's my special gift I wanted to show you. Alrighty, are you ready? This is the section where we talk about surprise gifts that I received in the mail. Y'all, don't take this the wrong way. I'm not asking for anything. Please, don't take this that way. But I don't typically receive surprise gifts in the mail from random people. And if I do, it's usually a friend or a family member or something along those lines. So in 1 week, when I received the items I'm about to show you in consecutive order, it was shocking to me and thrilling, and I was just overwhelmed. So I'm just going to show them to you in the order that I received them. Now this one, things are blowing. Sorry. I brought a snack out with me. Have you tried these? Costco. Dark chocolate nuggets. Coconut superfood. Superfood, so they're healthy, right? Oh my goodness, these are so good. I was feeling a little famished in between sections, and so I had to eat a little snack. Okay. So I sort of kind of knew I might be getting this, but I had forgotten. So Robbie came by my suite at Market with my friend Julie, and she at some point in the last year had posted a picture of a project bag she had made, and when she made it, she used one of my printed canvas bags. Now these printed canvas bags have some sort of a stitchy quote printed on them, and they are my gift to shops who purchase over a certain dollar amount from me at Market. They're working their butts off at Market, and when they have an order that's large enough that it makes me feel really thanked by them, or I don't know really how to describe it. I feel honored that they would, amongst all of the amazing designs at market, purchase from me at a volume that makes me happy. And it's not necessarily about the dollars, it's about the volume. And I want to thank them. And so I started having these canvas book bags printed with a stitchy quote. And last year she had, on the last day, came by and I had some left over, and so I let her buy one from me. And I had no idea what she was going to do with it. Well, she cut it up, which doesn't bother me, by the way, because she converted it into a project bag, which I thought was brilliant. So she came by this year. She's like, do you have any canvas bags this year? And I'm like, yep, I do. And she said, well, if I come by on Sunday and you have any left, can I buy one from you? And I'm like, sure, absolutely. So she came by on Sunday, and yes, I had some left. And I said, how about if you don't buy them from me, I'll give you yours, and I'll give you a second one that you could maybe turn into a project bag for me, please? So there was a little bit of begging involved. So this was not completely unexpected, but you guys, I'm telling you, this is amazing. Look what came in the mail. I hope that's not backwards for you. It says, I'm just here for the cross stitch. Now imagine people walking around market with this canvas bag full of goodies. I mean, it's true, right? So she patchworked it and chose my favorite color scheme. I like browns and neutrals with a pop of aqua and red. I mean, I'm sure you see that in my designs, right? Okay, so not only did she do that, but usually on the bag right down here is my logo. Guess what she did? Ta-da! It's right here. And I'm not sure how she did it. A bunch of you probably know, but it's coated. It's not just the canvas. It's got a vinyl plasticky coating on it to protect it. And it's a good size. Look how big this is. And she put a cross and a little handmade fob on there, a zipper charm. Robbie, thank you so much. I know that I neglected to reach out to you when I first received it, but I just want you to know that I love this project bag, and I'm really glad that I finally showed it so that I can take it out of my to be shown pile and actually use it. I love it and I will cherish it. And your note will stay inside so that every time I pull this project bag out, I will have your note with it. Thank you. I'm pretty sure she doesn't sell her project bags, so don't ask. Or maybe do, just in case she wants to. All right. Next that one was not a total surprise. This one was. So there is a lovely lady named Gina who has done, she helped me. I had a customer reach out that wanted some finished custom pieces and asked if I would stitch them for her, and I said I really don't have time, but I would be happy to connect you with a stitcher who will stitch for pay. And so I reached out to Gina. Gina happens to have a Etsy shop, which I didn't know about. It's called Sophia Violet Designs. And she sells little thread rings. They're book rings, but we all use them for thread rings, right? With accoutrement on them. Look at how... I absolutely love this. So she has taken a thread spool, vintage, and wrapped it in some fabric and put a little dangle on it, scissors, there's a little sewing machine, there's a vintage button, There's measuring tape bits. Just sent it to me with a lovely little note thanking me for letting her work for my customer. She, by doing that, made me so happy because I really wanted to help this lady. This lady had a poem that she had written for her sisters and she wanted it stitched, but she's not a stitcher. And being not a stitcher, she didn't, I don't think, realize how much time and effort went into these. So, but she really wanted to do it and did not balk at the price. And so she paid me to design a custom piece for her sisters with her poem that she had written. And then she paid Gina for her labor and materials. And I'm super happy with how it turned out. And she was thrilled with the end product. And so, Gina, you didn't have to thank me because you were doing me a huge favor, but thank you for your gift, and it's going to be treasured for times to come. And maybe you all can go check out her Etsy shop and see what she has to offer. I went over there a couple days ago and she had quite a bit of goodies listed, so Etsy shop right here. I also received a lovely surprise from Becky. Becky is Socks for Mom on Instagram. And Becky, do you also have an Etsy shop? I'll look it up, and if she does, I'll put her link below as well. So Becky had made, she is stitching His Eye is on the Sparrow, and she wanted to make a thread ring for her project. And so she asked if she could use one of the motifs from His Eye is on the Sparrow to make a thread ring to match her, to go with her project. And so I said, of course. So she sent me a duplicate, and it's got a little tree of life, because on my His Eye is on the Sparrow there's a tree of life, and then it's got that funky spotted cow that's up in the top quadrant. And so now I have a funky cow, His Eye is on the Sparrow thread ring. And then, because she's that nice, she also made one for Consider the Lilies. And this one has a little rose dangle on it, and then a little vintage image of lilies of the valley. Thank you, Becky. These little souvenirs are so meaningful to me. I tend, when I'm working on projects, to have my threads in a big pile. I'm not very good at following that rule that we're apparently supposed to have them on a ring. But things like this are going to make me more inclined to use a ring, because then every time I pick up my threads, I am reminded of the lovely friend who I got to meet Becky last May. That's the wrong envelope. It's okay. Anyway, thank you. And that's not all. There's one more surprise that I got in the mail. And this one, I'm not going to say who it's from, because I am not sure if that's something that she wants me to do. But you know who you are, and you guys, I got a Bitsy Bob. Okay, I have a couple of these, and I adore them. These are by Kelly Stadola. That's So Kelly. Her shop address is below. But this came to me totally unexpected, and if you know me, you know how much I love coffee. I had to live without it for 2 years, and that's something I never want to repeat again. So having this Bitsy Bob Coffee themed that came unexpectedly in the mail just because is really meant a lot to me. So thank you very much. You know who you are. And this is going to be another one of those things where I am going to put your name and address label in the little pocket so that every time I use it, I'm reminded of your kindness. Thank you very much. Now, from here on out, it's all haul. It's all me trying to keep my needle workshops open. I am not going to tell you what shops I got these all from because as they came in, I put receipts in one pile and goodies in another pile. I did not keep track. I have digital documentation and that's it. And frankly, it doesn't really matter. What I really wanted to do was to, in a very small way, because none of these orders are huge. They're all relatively small orders. A pattern here, some threads there. I did get quite a bit of linen, but it was like one piece per shop or, you know, a couple things, because it's hard to let, you don't want your patterns and linen to travel alone. So usually there has to be 2 things at least in your order. Am I right? So I organized my pile into categories. So I'm gonna run through quickly. I did not take patterns out of bags, but I will just do a quick show and tell because I know that you have the ability to pause the screen if you want a closer look at something, right? I hope you know how to do that. If you've been watching FlossTube for any period of time, you should know how to do that. So I'm going to start with doodads. Now these first 2, oops, came as little goodies, little extra goodies in my purchase. So I will tell you who they came from, I think. Yes. So in my Fire Poppies order, I got this fantastic little needle minder. Oh, hey, look, here comes the sun. We have been stuck under a soggy rain cloud for weeks. So this is delightful. And it looks like it's going to hit my face pretty soon. So it says Charleston Clay Jewelry. And it's just this cool little needle minder made out of clay. And the Tinsmith's wife gave me a needle minder that has their shop logo on it, which is pretty cool. It's all bedazzled around the edges. Those were just extras that were gifts. Thank you, ladies. I appreciate you and your shops, and I hope you're doing well during this time. All right, this, oh, it says where I got it from, Stitches and Things. I got a magnetic pickup wand. Because I hate when I drop my needle or my scissors and I'm all curled up in my chair. I don't want to move. So I usually have extras sitting around me so I can grab a different needle or a different scissors, but what I'm always worried about, especially if it's the needle, is that I'll forget to pick it up later. So now I have a handy pickup wand that will help me get it without uncurling myself from my chair, because the older I get, not only is it harder to get into that position, but it's even harder to get out of it again. So, magnetic pickup wand. It telescopes up to 24 inches, and it can lift up to 10 pounds. I have not tested that. If I test it and find out that that's not true, I will let you all know. But if you don't hear back from me about this, it looks like it's distributed by Yarn Tree, so many needle workshops have it. You can just assume that it's correct if I don't say anything otherwise. I got a zipper pull, and I know where this came from too. This is from Dying to Stitch. That says Sampler Maker. It's just a cute little metal scissor pull. Zipper pull. scissor pull. You could probably put it on scissors as a scissor fob, but I don't know that I would necessarily use it as a scissor pull. And so I had talked about these in a video a while back. They were new to me and I hadn't tried them yet. And a few people have asked along the way, what did you think of those scissors? Well, or those needles? I love them. So I have for years been exclusively a John James petite stitcher. I stitch in hand using the sewing method, and I just like that I can have that short little needle and I can turn it so fast, and I can use up right down to the last nubbin of my thread because I am a stingy thread user, meaning I like to use right up to the end if I can. It's like a contest. How close? It's like playing chicken with my thread. How close can I get to that end without it slipping out of my needle? Anyway, where was I? I think it was at Galleria last September, and I came across these Susan Fitzgerald. Yes, I think that's who had them. And she told me you have to try them. They're fantastic. They're made in Japan. They're great needles. So the complaint that I've always had over the years with my John James is I tend to bend them and the eyes break. And I think it's because of the repetitive motion of stitching in hand with the sewing method. I think that I probably tend to have pressure on my needle in a way, and they get bendy, and then sometimes the eyes break and then they'll snag on my linen. And I know a lot of that is because of how I stitch. But it's probably also a little bit of a quality issue with the needle, quite frankly. The eye shouldn't break like that. Personal opinion. I still love those petites. I need to convince Tulip to make this needle in a petite, and then I would be in needle heaven. So I like these needles so much that I've given them as gifts, and I've bought myself 2 more vials. So this is a number 25 tapestry needle. They do have other sizes, but I like this size. And there are 6 needles in a case. And I want to say it runs around $9 for this. Here, I'll open it so you can see what's inside, since I'm going to be cracking into this soon anyway. So it comes in the cute little box, which I just destroyed. Are you going to come out of there? And then inside, it's in this little paper holder case. And it's a little plastic vial with a cork in top. And it even has the size on it. So if you bought multiple sizes of theirs, they're all labeled with what's inside, which is pretty cool. And I kind of wish it was a glass vial because I'm not a fan of plastic, but with the plastic vial, I've dropped it so many times and it just kind of bounces, and you know it's not going to break. So my impression of these needles, they are smooth. They go through your linen like butter. They're really easy to thread for me. I'm a licker and sticker. I don't use a needle threader. And I find that the eye is consistent from top to bottom. You know how sometimes a needle's eye will be a little more pinched on one end than the other? And I don't know if that's by design or by accident, but sometimes there's like a sweet spot where you can get your thread through easier. This one, it doesn't matter. The whole thing is very consistently made. I just found that they're a quality needle. I like how they feel going through the linen. There's no drag at all. Because I sew, I'm not a poker and stabber, I'm going through 2 spots at once, and so sometimes with needles that are a little bit rougher, even marginally rougher, you can feel the drag, and with these there's no drag. So I can't say enough good things about these needles. So if you haven't tried them, maybe you should. Unless you have a needle that you're already perfectly content with, in which case, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. All right, I got myself some NPIs, needle point silk. Now, when I bought these, there was not, I couldn't see what the colors were. I could only see the description from the shop website that I bought them from. So it's doubtful that I would have chosen these two shades. They're a little bit brighter than my normal, but I'm still gonna give them a try. I don't typically stitch with silk. I'm a fan of cotton over dyes, because when I've stitched with silk, it hasn't felt enough different to me to justify the price. I've stitched a little more with silk in the last few months, and I'm starting to maybe get it, but I'm still not sure it's worth the price increase, personally, for me, for the experience. But I did want to try some needle points, and so yes, needle point, NP. Why do we call them NPI? Oh, ink, needle point ink. So, got those. I picked up a couple of classic Colorworks greens that I didn't have in my collection that I really wanted. This might be my favorite color right now, you all. Like a chartreuse green. I got Bean Sprout and Mossy, and to me they look very similar. But they're so pretty. I can't wait to incorporate them into something. Okay, now comes the stack of linens that I bought. This is a 30 count even weave linen, Access Commodities, called Portobello. I wanted to try some Access Commodities linen because I haven't touched it any or handled it. And I'm not sure I'm going to be real quick to use this just based on first feel. It feels really stiff. Maybe if you've stitched on Access Commodities, you can tell me below. Does it soften up over time? Like over the course of a project? Because I don't mind if it starts out stiff as long as it's going to soften up. Because I stitch in hand, I don't care for the linens that are too structured. I like the softer, floppier linens better. I got some Weeks 36 beige. I'm going to leave that in the bag because the tag is not attached to it and I don't want them to be separated. It's important that I know what I'm working with because you all like it when I tell you what I'm stitching on when I'm stitching models. Here is a piece of Weeks 36 parchment, which is such a pretty color. It's a nice lighter neutral, and I find that parchment goes with so many different thread color schemes. It's very versatile. I got my hands on some Lakeside, you all. I have never been able to get Lakeside directly from Lakeside. I don't know why. I've reached out. It's been a few years because I gave up. I've been designing for 12 years now, and over the course of 12 years I've reached out a few times and, you know, just to inquire about a designer program and have gotten no response back. So I have just, that's why my models are never done on Lakeside. I can't seem to get it. And if I can't seem to get it, I think that it might be difficult for you to get as well. But when I was shopping at one of my shops, I'll just tell you who it was. It was the Tinsmith's Wife. They had a bunch of Lakeside in their shop. And now something I found over the course of the month of April was that some shops would have specifically linens listed that they didn't actually have an inventory. And that wasn't super clear. And so you go through your purchase and you buy it, and then they notify you that it's on order for you. And I didn't really like that. I don't mind waiting for linen, but I wish that it was made clear in the description of the purchase. My 2 cents. So I had already discovered that happens sometimes, and so I reached out and they said, oh yeah, we actually have this. We have a bunch of Lakeside. Like, I'm gonna get some Lakeside. And having no experience with it, I told them to choose some colors for me. I gave them some parameters, and this is what I ended up with. I got some, by the way, you're gonna discover my favorite count is 36. Some 36 vintage cedar plank. You probably all are familiar with these colors already. Some 40 count vintage lentil. Should I hold those up side by side? Some 40 count vintage sand dune. Here's the parchment for reference. So the vintage sand dune's a little darker than parchment. And the, what was that other one called? Lentil? Vintage lentil is lighter than parchment. And then some 36 count light exemplar, which is a little lighter and a little bit more, little less of a pink tone to it than the parchment. It feels really soft and lovely. It feels like exactly the texture of linen that I like to stitch on in hand. The Weigart based linens tend to be my favorite. I know there's a lot of discussion about old weeks versus new weeks, and I actually liked the old weeks because it's nice and loose and easy to work in hand. But if it's a little more structured, I like it a little bit better. So I've recently stitched on some of the weeks linen that's dyed on a Weigart base, and I do like it better than the older linen, but I like them both. I like them both. I also really like R&R. R&R probably has my favorite colors to work on, and as far as the quality and feel of the linen, it's equally comparable with Weeks, and now I would say with Lakeside too. I like that feel. So here's some 32 count Absidarian from R&R. Love that color. What is this? This is some R&R 36 count Stars Hollow. For anybody wondering, Absidarian and Stars Hollow are super similar, but I don't know if my camera is going to show. The Absidarian is a little bit cooler and the Stars Hollow is a little bit warmer. And sometimes those nuances in shades really do matter depending on what your thread palette is. Here is some 36 count Winter Brew, which is a little darker and a little dirtier. Here is some 32 count French Roast, which isn't as dirty as the Winter Brew, and possibly a little bit, now don't get this wrong, it's maybe a little bit greener, but it's not a green linen. It's just that when compared with the two, it's got a little bit of a grayer look to it. Here is some, boy, I got a lot of R&R. I know, Pat, I can just call you and get it from you, but I'm supporting shops. So 36 count Iced Cappuccino, which is creamier, maybe a little more pinky than the others. It's kind of nice to see them all lined up like this. Here is some 36 count vintage beeswax, which is definitely a darker, more patina. There's more patina to it. Looks like vintage beeswax. It actually does. Here is, ooh, another piece of vintage beeswax. Same count, different shop. Oh well, you know I'll use it. Okay, so that is the end of the R&R. And this is a piece. Okay, so you all know Teresa Kitten Stitcher and Shakespeare's Peddler. Her son, so Teresa has done some linen dyeing, and I love her colors. And I love that they're gritty and dirty looking. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but I like my linen to look like it has some age to it. And she enjoys dyeing linen, but she's so busy. She's running a shop, she's a designer, she's got her hands very full. Well, her son Graham, who is a really nice young man, I have had the pleasure of meeting him in person and really, really enjoy his personality. Had some fun conversations with him last September at Galleria. He has tried his hand at linen dyeing and has found that he really likes it, and he's going to try his hand at doing more of it. So I reached out to him and asked if he would be interested in providing some for me for some kits that I'm working on, and he said yes, absolutely. So he sent me some samples, and I can't show you two of them because they have stitching on them. But I can show you this one. And this is a lovely large piece of 36 count pie crust. It is, this might be one of my all-time favorite colors of linen I have ever seen. I'm also currently, I'm stitching on a piece of his linen that's called Graham Cracker. And then he has another one, and I think it's called Tea Set, that's a little more gray. But this one, pie crust, see, some people would hate that. I love those purposeful splotches. Because the thing that drew me into designing in the first place was antique samplers. And I love the patina of time that is on most antique samplers. It shows that there's been life there. And I want my designs, I'm not going to be around in 200 years to see what my pieces look like. So I want to kind of get a jump start on the process and use linens that look a little aged and use threads that have some fading to them, which is why I like the cotton over-dyed flosses. So anyway, this linen feels really good. It's a Zweigart. It's got the orange on the selvage, so you know that's Zweigart. I'm hoping that he does start to get really into linen dyeing and we can have another selection to choose from out there. Because we all know that right now, all of our linen dyers are running ragged. They can't keep up with us. I did not acquire any Picture This Plus linen during my buying spree because I have a lot. Marilyn is so quick to respond when I have a need for a piece of linen for a model. If I need linen for kits, she's currently running on she needs like an 8-week lead time, you guys, because her linen is such high demand. And so because I already have a very good selection of Picture This Plus, I didn't buy any pieces when I was buying. The others I got because I was either low or had never had them at all, like I said about Lakeside. So anyway, don't think that I'm slighting Picture This Plus at all in my... But can you tell what fabric tones are my preferred fabric tones? All right. I did pick up one other piece of linen, and I kept it specifically with a pattern because I want to stitch it on a specific pattern. And this is Crinkle Crinkle. You all love that crinkle. I love the crinkle. This is 40 count farm eggs, and this is a Kitten Stitcher exclusive. And is it XJU Designs? Is that who dyes it? Anyway, it looks like speckled farm eggs. I love it. I just think that that is so fun. And the sampler that I plan to stitch on this piece of linen is the lovely Carolyn Broomhead. I have not purchased much in the way of patterns over the years because honestly I don't have time to stitch. I haven't taken the time to stitch recreationally for a long time. The reason I got into designing is because I love cross stitch and specifically samplers, and I couldn't afford to buy them, so I decided to design some. And that's how my journey started, sort of in a very encapsulated nutshell. But this one, I just love that funky tree. I love the colors that Paulette chose, and it's one that I've had my eye on. I mean, when did it come out? Is there a date on here? 2016? So it's not super old, but every time it comes up, I'm like, oh, I love that sampler. Really, I just want to stitch the tree and the people underneath it. I mean, I could stitch the whole thing. I like the whole thing, but I tend to, if I love a design by somebody else, but my time is so occupied with my models, if I'm going to stitch other people's work, I tend to just choose an element from it that's my favorite part. And so I can get through that part that I love, and then move on to another friend's designs. I get to call this lovely lady my friend. Hi, Paulette. I miss you. All right. I'm just going to go through patterns now, and I don't think I have them sorted by designer or anything. But it'll be interesting to see if you think that I have a look other than my own designs. Is there a certain, because when I was looking through these, I was like, if I wasn't hanging my own models on my walls, I would still have a look to my decorating. So, The Tie That Binds by La Di Da. I love the sentiments that Lori puts on her designs. This is from 2006. It's a bit older. It says, love is the tie that binds, and then it has, it looks like her initials and her husband's initials and perhaps their wedding date down below. I finally broke down and I got Manor at Quaker Hill, Brenda Gervais. So pretty. It's just beautiful. Everything about it. The Little Stitcher, The Sacred Bee. As a beekeeper, I pick up just about any honeybee design that crosses my path. Now I got the Project Quarantine by Brenda Gervais, and I got this one from the Stitch Niche in Arlington, Texas, and I knew that I want to stitch it in silks, and I have a tiny collection of silks, but I have some Gloriana silks that I bought at the Stitch Niche last May when I was visiting Texas, And I thought, well, how fitting to order it from her, because it was her turn on the spin wheel. That's how I chose who to shop from every day, was a Tiny Decisions app. I already had colors that would work for the rest of the design except for the blue. So I had her choose a Gloriana blue for me, and this is slate blue. And yes, it's perfect. It's exactly what I was hoping for, in case you were wondering. Because I kind of just gave her a description. I don't want it to be too this way or too that way. You pick. And she did perfectly. I got Mary Barr's sampler from Stacy Nash. And I think that came from Beach Cottage Stitchers. No, Little House. Little Creek Needlework. Yeah. I got to see this one in person at Market the year it was released, 2018. Beautiful. I got Scattered Seed Samplers, Sweet Sentiments. I just love that Victorian funky hand holding the rose with the key in the locks. It's just really fun. I got this, it's just called A&E. It's by Brenda Gervais. The Serpent Deceived Me and I Ate. This is from 2014. I got another Stacy Nash. This is Primrose Farm Sewing Basket and Heart Pin Keep. Oh, here's another Stacy Nash. Woolies Pin Keep. I really like those colors on the dark linen. I don't have a piece of dark linen like that, but I might have to find one if I ever get around to stitching that one. I will someday. Someday I'm gonna retire and I'm well stocked. I'm well stocked. Pineberry Lane, Mrs. McGuire Bee Charmer. Another bee design for my collection. Oh, this is Ida Nolt, Hands to Work. Tracy, I have had my eye on this pattern for literally years. Does it say when it originally came out? I don't know, but I feel like I remember this design from like 12 years ago or more. And so I was super excited when it was reprinted and got my hands on a copy. Lucy Beam, the tea box. Love this one, and it has a bee skep and a bee on it. Quilts and Quakers by Lottie Da. Copyright 2019. Needle and Thread by Heart and Hand. Ink Circles, Red-Headed Bee. Plum Street, Babushka's Bees. I keep saying I'm going to have a bee wall someday, but honestly, I need more walls. That's what I need first, and then I can have a bee wall. Me and You by Lottie Da. This is a 2016 design. Oh yes. Lindy Stitchy. You're okay, I guess. I love fractors. I love the snarkiness of this design and the funniness of this design, and I love that it was created by someone that I call my friend. Plum Street, Peace, Love, and Purpose. Honestly, it's all about this tulip band right here. By the lovely Paulette. Now this is a Threadwork Primitives, it's called Friendship Sampler, and it's exclusive to Tomorrow's Heirlooms. So if you want this one, you'll have to contact them for it, and they'll kit it up for you. I just love this border up here so much in the bouquet. That actually I might just take this and have that be a Mother's Day bouquet one of these years. Or I might do the whole thing. I don't know. I like to think that I can just... We're all optimists, aren't we? We live in hope. We live in hope that someday we can stitch all of these things, get them all finished so we can hang them on our walls, because we'll have endless amounts of walls in our gigantic houses just full of cross stitch. And then we can go on like a tour, and we could visit each other's homes and look at our endless walls of cross stitch. That sounds like a dream to me. This is a new designer to me. Gira, I think is how it's pronounced. And she's a Kyoko Maru. I don't speak Japanese. I don't want to butcher her name. Creative Poppy publishes these. Anyway, her designs are, they're everything. I love her combination of colors. They're whimsical and beautiful. And this is Anne and Diana from Anne of Green Gables. And my daughter and I are about to embark on the journey of watching through those movies, and I thought it would be fun to stitch that one while we're watching it. And Barbara Anna, this is just called, is it just called Midnight? It's called Midnight. It has a quote by William Shakespeare on it. "'Tis now the very witching time of night," William Shakespeare. But again, it's about the flower bouquet right there. And to me it looks like nightshade, which I love that. I got the Little Busy Bee. This is a new one from Needlework Press. My Big Toe Designs, Great is Thy Faithfulness. This was one of my grandfather's favorite hymns, possibly his very favorite hymn. And also mine. I got a book. This is an older book. It's called Sonoran Borders, Threads of Friendship. And it's by Vicki Jeanette. And I had never seen this before, and I was just browsing through one of the shops and came across it. It is from 2013, and the projects in it are very Southwest looking. Here's an antique sampler that's shown in there that inspired one of the designs. It's got some great little projects in it. It's got some perforated paper projects. I'm trying to find another good, I don't want to show you the whole book. It's got some needle rolls that have little stitched motifs. And here's a little sewing pouch. Anyway, it's got some fun little projects in it, and if nothing else, I just love the feel of this book. It was produced by Kansas City Star, which is no longer producing books, which is very sad. That was one of my dreams when I first started designing, was to have a book published by Kansas City. That didn't happen. GGR, the Big Cat Sampler. I have loved this one for a long time. Mostly because of that big fat cat down there. Prairie Schooler, Birds and Berries. And if I stitch this, I'm going to do it like Teresa Bennett did and put it all on one piece because it looks amazing that way. Oh, I'm almost to the bottom of my pile. Can you believe it? Okay, so at Galleria last year, I was able to buy Pieces of Innocence, 1840, by Cross Stitch Antiques with the linen and threads. And it's smalls taken from the sampler, so you're able to stitch little bits and pieces. But honestly, what I really wanted was that flower right there in the middle in all of its beautifulness. I want to stitch it as a Mother's Day bouquet for myself. So I kept thinking, well, maybe I'll just stitch, one of the little pieces that come in this. But then I realized, why don't I just buy the pattern for the sampler? I've got both parts now. I've got the linen and threads, and I can actually stitch the section that I love the most on the sampler. The border is beautiful. This little section down at the bottom is really funky and cool. I mean, the whole thing is great. And, you know, these flowers that are in the one that I got last year are pretty, but I just really want to stitch that central motif. It's pretty. It says, Jesus, my God, to thee I fly. Thou art a refuge ever nigh. When heart shall fail, when life is past, thou wilt receive my soul at last. Rebecca E. Reside, Frankfurt, 1840. So, and the final piece that I finally bought for myself after years of putting it in my shopping cart and taking it out and putting it in my cart and taking it out, the sampler that inspired me to design His Eye is on the Sparrow in the first place. Oh yes. Dutch Beauty. Permit of Copenhagen. I kept not buying it because it's so big. I know how long a project this size takes, and I don't have that time to devote to stitching other designs right now in my life. But I started to think about the fact that designs go out of print, and this is the first thing I want to start when I retire. Maybe I'll start it before then, maybe I'll change my mind, but I didn't want to lose the opportunity to have this. So right now, Ellen is stitching this and posting pictures. I'll link her Instagram below and her FlossTube so you can watch her progress in case she puts it. Have you put it in your FlossTube yet, Ellen? I don't know if you have, because she stitches so fast. She probably has like stitched half of it between her last FlossTube and her next one. Anyway, I have it now. No excuses. At some point, on my next buying spree, I'll probably have to decide what my very, very favorite linen is and get a piece for this. And just start acquiring the stash so that when I'm ready, I can start it. I have reached the end of my pile. And I got through everything I wanted to talk about today. I have so much stuff in the works right now. I'm working on kits for retreats that are now not going to be in person. They're going to be virtual retreats, I guess. And figuring out the details for how to make that fun for the people that had signed up to attend. I'm working on kits for a couple of retreats that so far are still going to happen in person, and that is the Silver Needle in July and Shepherd's Bush in October. And I go back and forth between outright fear of flying. July seems too soon to me, and October seems like too far into the next wave, because I feel like there's going to be another wave of COVID once school opens up. So I'm planning for them to be in person, and I really hope that I get to meet all of you people that have signed up to be at those retreats. But I'm also like in the back of my mind telling myself that it could not happen, and I could have to, you know, do an about face and have it be another virtual event. Anyway, I have so many projects I'm working on. I'm also deep into planning my small samplers club. Yes, I'm gonna do it. Those of you who have been keeping track I charted 4 small samplers. I sent them out to Karen Veers, who does some model stitching for me, and I already have the models back and framed. And now all it's down to is logistics. So I had originally planned to list the first, to start the club this month, start getting signups this month. And I've decided I'm gonna put it off because I want to be able to devote my full attention to the retreats that I'm planning right now. And I'm thinking August. I've been working on my website, heartstringsamplery.com. There's stuff there you can look at if you want to go check it out. And I've been working on populating that. There's going to be a shopping page. You're going to be able to shop on my actual website. And I've been working on developing that part of the website, but it's still hidden from you until it's completely full. I've been converting patterns to PDF. I've been loving having my Etsy shop PDFs only. It might become permanently that way, I have to be honest, because it has freed up so much of my time to be able to be creative again and stay more on top of life in general. I find that I think I'm a much more pleasant person to live with. It was getting to where my Etsy shop was running my business more than I was running it, if that makes sense. It's a blessing. I never once was angry or upset about it. It felt every single order felt like a hug. Felt like a hug from you. But it was definitely tapping into my ability to access the creativity. I need more clear headspace for that part, and the creativity and the designing is how I got here in the first place, and I don't want it to get to a point where the logistics of running a shop overwhelm that part of what I do. Because then it just feels like when I need to design something, it feels a little more forced than natural. So I haven't made any permanent decisions, but I think that you will see moving forward that just like the whole rest of the world, this period of time where this virus is controlling how we do things, I think we're going to see a lot of changes in how businesses run, including mine. So more on that to come. I am keeping busy. I am taking time to step outside when it's not raining and enjoy my surroundings. I am wearing a mask when I go to town, out of respect for the people around me. And I am hugging my kids and my husband. What a time it is to be alive. That's what I keep telling myself. It's going to change a lot of things about just life in general is going to change. And some for the better, I think. I hope that you have somebody close to you that you're able to connect with regularly. I hope that if you're in a state that is opening back up already, that people around you are still being safe and that you all stay well and keep on stitching. And I hope to see you again soon. Bye.